Hello, everybody! Ground back here, and Generation Jumble Season 2 is finally over. You would have known that. There has not been a lot of activity on the channel. And there's a lot of reasons for that, which I'll talk about briefly. We have another council meeting. Second Theus will join us momentarily, but at the moment, it is me, it is Cyber DJ, and it's Saltina. This is where you guys say.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to say hi and present ourselves or something.
True.
I
Well,
I won.
oh yeah, you won the silence game. True, we did set up a bet.
What?
No, don't worry, it's just the law.
Alright. You know what? I was streaming, but I think I'll only like start streaming again once we actually go back on the tier list. I think it's probably better if we talk about like our what our goals were for the actual season, and then talk about like why it didn't really pan out. We can update the viability rankings at the end.
Yeah, the viability rankings will be updated later. I don't think it's the most important part.
Yeah, especially since
Hey,
most of it isn't changed. Or I guess we could talk about what our goals were for season. Will be awkward for Sotina because she wasn't really around, like not a council member started.
I wasn't a console member, so my goal for the start of season 2 was simply play and have fun, which I did. Despite having a few issues and not being able to play at the maximum power I could have in the two tournaments. But that's beside the point. I did have the fun I wanted, so that was my goal, and I've accomplished mine. But things got in the way. Scheduling.
Yeah. Now, I probably should have asked Zach and Theus like what he wanted. Cyber DJ, what were your goals at the beginning of the season?
uh, it was very specific. Well, obviously, I wanted to, because it was one main goal, which was just it was to win, but it had to be in my own distinct way. It was either that or at the very least beat you. It was one or the other. And I did actually have a lot of fun in the tournament. I actually liked the meta a lot more than I was expecting to. It's kind of like RBY with its own twist, where season one Metagross did change the format mostly in its image, and that's not a bad thing because, and I've said this before, Metagross didn't actually detract that much from the meta. Redemption arc, I know. Uh, Season two was more standard RBY. You could take that as a plus or a minus depending on who you ask. I think it's mostly about the same, but that also meant that it was well, it was easier in some ways to team build because despite us having a lot of Pokemon, in practice how many of those new Pokemon were we actually going to use? And like Sotina mentioned, the scheduling was definitely an issue, and we need to try and rectify that a little bit.
That is now for me. My main goal was just to, well, as you can probably tell from the whole theme of the season, was to try and buff the weaker types, but also trying to surpass season one. So that meant more people, but way more importantly, the main goal was to have it be way more consistent with scheduling and also just me playing my part. Because season one went off to a pretty good start, but then I went to California for a month, so there was just a weird gap where there was no activity. I came back and everything mostly went back to normal. I wanted to do better for season two, and it ended up being way, way worse. Both when it comes to like just players as a whole. We had more players this time just not showing up for events or just bits. And I was so much worse when it came to actually communicating with players and trying to keep a schedule, both for YouTube videos and just activity in the Discord server as a whole, which I do apologize for.
Yeah, that's the main parts. But that's all of these are easy fix when it comes to communication issues. And I think something that will probably need to be done, because I don't think you can reasonably manage everything on your own, is to have someone be dedicated as a season manager or something to manage the tournament and people making sure people do their game. So I don't know if anyone would want to like actually implement that or not. I don't mind participating in that, pinging people and making sure and keeping track of everything. That way it can lift some pressure, and two people trying to pay attention to something is better than one. So I think that would be one way to go about the fix.
I like that idea. Probably won't put that on one person though. I mean, there's like four of us, and not to mention like we got two Americans and two Europeans. So probably can have two people be in charge of like managing, like one American person for like American time zone and a European for all the weird miscellaneous, like those are from like freaking like UK or India or whatever. Discord server has a surprisingly wide variety of people playing in the tournament.
Yeah, it really does, which is one of the things that has been causing schedule issues. The 12-hour time gap has been
Yeah,
a
that
pain for some people to manage.
depending on the person. Like some people like you and Zach and Theus, even though you lived across the planet, you were pretty good at being able to schedule times with people. Other people, not so much, but we don't have to. Because a lot of them legitimately just had stuff going on. A lot of them had schooling or like jobs or just busy in general. And obviously, we're never going to fault you for that. Because, like, that obviously, as much as I hate to say it, sometimes there are things that are more important than playing a fictional Pokemon tier.
I don't care what you think.
Nonsense.
You are going to stay up till 2 in the morning to play Generation Jumble, and you are gonna like it.
Now, granted, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! You would be forced to be there on time, and I would actually ban you if you. But the Discord server can't be based like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm always here playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Streaming it. It's because I'm actually held hostage.
Oh, by the way, Santina streams on Twitch now. Or technically, she's been streaming for a while, but she started picking up again. So, if you like to see her like stuff, I guess just either join the Discord server or follow me and Santina on Twitter. Also, join the Discord server where you can actually participate in Generation Jumble. Or at the very least, you can just be there like this, like talk with people, play different games like Jackbox or Among Us, or you can just win this tournament yourself. Because it's one thing to like watch my videos where I'm talking about it, either past tens or reacting to it at the moment. But it's another thing to actually be there watching the battles live.
Yeah, watching the battle live is the definition of hype. That's what I've been loving the most in the tournament. It's just watching things happen live. That has been the favorite part.
Yeah. So scheduling is, I think, by far like the worst thing that happened. But another thing we need to talk about is some of the player behavior. It's I'll start with off which is because like I think everyone sort of forgot about it, but how I said some people were throwing fits and whatnot. That was
Yeah,
me as
you
well.
did
I
one
got
too. Yeah, I
yeah, like
remember.
I got pretty mad like with one of my matches, which granted, if you got paralyzed twice in a row and then missed four lovely kisses and then died to a critical wrap, I'd be pretty mad too. But obviously you shouldn't lash out on somebody. Granted, I very quickly tried to make amends, but it still was not a professional way to act. And again, I apologize for that. And there were some other people as well. Some people who were really salty from the matches they lost. At least one of them got banned, but that was most for other reasons. But like the way they acted in tournaments certainly didn't help. Other people were, like I said before, some people like had hard times with scheduling issues. But we had some that were not attempting at all to even reach out to their opponent, try to like schedule a time for them. I'm just letting you know right now, that's not going to happen for season 3 and future seasons. In the future, we're going to be way more strict when it comes to time schedules and making sure people are playing. If you're not like, if you're not doing anything at all, not even attempting to reach out to your opponent, hoping they reach out to you first, we're probably going to give them the win instead. Just letting you know right now.
Yeah, exactly. Because okay, Cyber, you can go first.
I know. And there's a lot of other ways you can actually just go about that. You could at least just do the one battle per day strategy, or you could at least tell us in advance. Or you could at least tell us in advance so we know. Okay, at least you're trying. Because I'm just saying, it's way easier to give you the benefit of the doubt and maybe stretch it out by another day and just start with the other battles than just if you at least let us know you're still trying and you're actively going out of your way to still actually play. Because if you're just being apathetic and just like, okay, whatever, let's do it. No, if you're gonna participate in the tournament, then you better participate in the tournament. Even if it means phoning in your matches, at least actually participate. And don't just kind of
Yeah,
meander around and waste everyone else's time.
and that's where I think the strike system will happen, where we, I think we should start to explain that at some point. It's just for general sportsmanship and scheduling. Uh, Try to not have. You can have issue once or twice, but at 3 times you just suspend it from tournament play. It's a new thing that is going to be implemented in the server. So that way, we can actually keep track of people that consistently have either sportsmanship issue or scheduling issues.
I part of me kind of feels bad, but like I need to I like a part of me feels like I just should let people be relaxed, but I know I can't. Like there's more people joining and more people have to do, so I can't just let people just take their time. Especially since we've now seen with season 2, if a tournament drags on, everyone will lose interest, even if there's still things to explore in them, which is another
Yeah,
problem with season 2. Like with season 1, I'm not sure how we managed to put the rolling again. But once I came back and like I started making videos again, it seemed like everyone was pretty hyped with season 1. So to be fair, I guess it was the first. So there's that going for it. But even with 2 tournaments, it just dragged on so much that I know it was technically more diverse. People just really stopped caring, and people started playing their own formats instead, which I get. I really do. I at some point, especially after you're eliminated from the tournament, you a lot of you guys probably just don't care that much. So this is another reason why we're just gonna keep schedule more tight. Because if people are playing more, and there's not a big gap where you're just waiting to happen, obviously you're gonna be just more interested in the meta itself. And I think I'm gonna try to push for people to. I'm not only gonna try to push for more live battles happening, because for those of you who don't know, in my server there is a channel dedicated for posting your matches live. But I'm also going to try to have more videos where I'm reacting to battles with other commentators, mostly you guys from the actual server. So if you're watching this video and you've always wanted to just be in a Discord call with the Groundback himself, just join that and be a Generation Jumble participant. Because I will try to have at least one VC with every single person, which probably means I'll also be reacting to some practice matches, if I had to guess. But I guess it would depend on just how many people are, what's it called, participating in the third tournament. And I'm also willing to maybe react to some replays, assuming some people have some like wacky times schedules.
Yeah. But yeah, that's overall pretty much it. Yes, Saber.
Yeah, I think at this point, just for the sake of timing and convenience, I think the live battle thing should mostly just be for like the people in the server because well, if you can make the recording live round, then well, okay, God bless us all. You did the recording live. But if you didn't, so what? As far as the viewers are concerned, it's not that much different than watching the. Because either way, it's not changing too much for them. Sure, they can see how much time it's taking, which it could make some things more interesting. But in practice, it's kind of like a replay with extra steps and just more loading time. So if
Yeah.
it's done, then it just can't be done. And at that point, it also means that scheduling with co-hosts is way more convenient. So I'm all for just dropping this almost entirely and making it as more of a special thing that, well, if it can be done, might as well. If not, no big deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's a thing that's probably more for the server itself because all of us are kind of hyped to see things happen live and all of us squaring up and rooting for people. Because there are many people that show up for each replay, especially for the big matches. Uh, I think we got up to 8 to maybe 10 people at once in one replay, just cheering on and watching the live battle.
Like that.
Yeah,
I don't remember which one, but I'm sure it happened.
something like that definitely happened for me versus Cyber DJ in season. I know it did happen at some point in season. I know, like I think at least 6 people were there for Cyber DJ versus Silver Nugget, which we'll get to that because there was a second tournament. Yeah, that's another reason you join the server. Even if I'm not reacting to it live, even if you're not co-hosting with me, I hate to admit it, I really, really, really do. But the people in my server are funny, and they make jokes when they're watching battles live. Sometimes they're funny jokes.
No
Oh,
way!
Yeah, I know. Like, admitting Shoei and Zashui is are like they're like funny people. Like, you have no idea how much I want to KMS right
hurt.
now.
It
Oh
hurt.
my god! No, I finally got it out of you on camera! Let's go! We don't have
No.
someone to do editing too! Nice!
But be sure to like say in the comments what's more cursed, Shoei being funny or Zashui being, or Zach and Theus being funny, or would we comment? Would anybody in the server? And I'll say, yeah, you're right. They're not funny at all.
Damn, even me and Cyber?
Wait, so you make jokes?
You know what? That's the most best response because I actually don't. No, I'm funny with my personality or something. I don't know. How do you do the mean girl again?
I think you just say, well, anyway, and then the rest of us get bricks in fear.
Yeah, but using anyway uselessly will make it lose its meaning when I actually have to use it to
Yeah,
destroy people and send it back to the ether.
yeah, that's why I made sure it mattered when I saw your catchphrase yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Stealing all of my brand, which I don't mind. I find it funny, but I have to overreact and exaggerate the fact that I'm offended
It's
because
pretty
it's
funny,
called
Cyber.
acting.
We're only like what 3 or 4 days into like Yu-Gi-Oh! Massacre season 2, and Sutino's already preying on my downfall.
Pretty much, yeah.
Amazing.
Hey, so I guess we can start talking about the second tournament because I did not end up posting any videos for it, and there's 2 or 3 reasons. The first reason is the fact that my microphone wasn't working. I'm not sure why. Both on my phone and on my laptop, sometimes things randomly disconnect or stop working. Like, there's so many times where I just log on the showdown and I'm just randomly signed out. Don't know why. But for the longest time, my snowball microphone wasn't working. And if you see some of my videos, some of my more recent videos, like Zamazenta, Solrock, Windtone, you can definitely tell the quality was much worse. So I didn't want to make any videos that I didn't think would be the best quality I could possibly put out. But I managed to get it working. But by the time I got it working, the tournament was already over. Not to mention,
Yeah.
uh, Jumble videos don't do that well in the first place. And I made a community or post asking what I can do to help you guys watch the videos. And most of you pretty much ended up saying you just didn't care, or you're mostly using me as background noise, so reactions to replays just don't really work out. So I had a small bit of time where I was just unmotivated to make videos. But again, that's also something like I no longer am or suffering from. As you could probably tell, I am making a video like right now. Just couldn't tell.
That's what we're doing?
No, Cyber DJ, he's just like, wait, Ground's been recording this conversation the whole time?
Oh no, we can't say slurs anymore.
Dang it, you had your chance.
Well, you don't have to worry. Well, that's not something I have to worry about. That's something other people have to worry about.
Yeah,
But
something
don't
that
worry
I have
about
to
me.
worry about exactly. But
True,
And
actually.
but there's one more reason. Because technically I could have just made videos watching the replays. The third reason is because I mean it's kind of mean to say, but they weren't really very interesting. Outside of I think what one Pokemon in particular, almost nothing was really in fact, I'm gonna be honest, I do not even remember what Winter's Bracket was even like. Because both Winner's Bracket and Loser's Bracket were extremely one-sided. Winner's Bracket had Minori returning, and Minori just ended up dominating pretty much everyone. And Loser's Bracket was the same thing, but for a newcomer, Silver Nugget. And Silver Nugget pretty much dominated the entire tournament using a pretty much basic RBY team plus Naganadel. They only ended up losing against Cyber DJ, which it was a 3-0 in Cyber DJ's favor. But to be fair, like those 3 matches were legitimately the only real super interesting ones where new things were happening.
Yeah, because Clodsire was happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Besides that, the only good thing that remember being innovated was Clayfable usage by Mittery, and Goalie support usage by me. Basically what happened.
Yeah.
That's the only two other innovations of the format.
the thing.
And
So yeah,
Um,
so Tina, like Satina and Cyber like are responsible for Quadsire and Isopod moving up tiers. And we'll talk about that when we quickly update the viability ranking. And I guess technically Snorlax also saw like a big a boost as well, since no one was using it for some reason during like the actual like first tournament. But like I said, Silver Nugget was basically using a regular team, so Snorlax just dominated everyone basically.
here's the here's the thing. So Tina innovated. No. So Tina and I, mostly her, innovated with the Lysopod. I innovated with Clodsire. That was a secret of mine, and you're the first person to know that. Well, you were until I actually used it. And
yeah,
just as a reminder, it was a calculated risk that also had a little bit of humor thrown into it. So I can't say it was completely just something that I calculated, but I will admit it did have a lot of thought put into it. And of course, Galisapod, yours truly, the woman. But yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much at least with the Clefable Midori thing, I think I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Moscato did help some of that because he's kind of like a Clefable and a Venusaur hype beast. So some of that definitely did bleed into Midori, and is like, maybe I could use this. At least that's my assumption.
Yeah, but no matter what's happened, I think that underused little thing coming up to wreck everyone's shit in Winner's Bracket was kind of fun.
Was. And just as a quick correction, Silver Nugget did use Iron Hands in his bracket against me. Pretty sure it was the third round. And I know you think him getting 3-0'd by me is impressive, but if you saw the replays, I got luckier than I want to admit.
Oh, no, the second match definitely was full on just RNG. Let me explain because for me, halfway through the third match, I had to go because my dad showed up and it was Father's Day, so I was talking to him, and I didn't watch the replay afterward. I just saw it said accepted DJ one. So a lot of what happened in that third game, such as Silver apparently using Iron Hands, I just didn't know about until 5 seconds ago. But the first game was the main one I'm talking about because that was the one that actually was super close, went on for a lot of turns, and where Quadsire was not only really important, but was actually the main win con and the reason Cyber DJ won. And I guess you can just talk about that now, since it was the only interesting thing that happened with the second tournament. So, Clodsire, how do you feel about it as a Pokemon? And why did you use the moveset that you did?
So the thing with Clocksire is that there was two people that used it in the first bracket, the standard one, and it was myself and someone else in the server. And we both use, I'm pretty sure we both used the same stat. Earthquake, Surf, Amnesia, Recover. And if you're going to use Clodsire like that, it's going to fail. And Robot Plush, he watched the replay, and I'm pretty sure it was the day later, he's like, dude, you used Clodsire incorrectly. Just run Poison Jab over Surf and just use Amnesia defensively. And at the time, I just looked at it and was like, yeah, dude, sure, this washed Pokemon is going to use this set, and it's going to be slightly less garbage. So what? But then I constantly thought about that because we had a Crobat comeback, a Golisopod comeback, and I was like, what if I did the same thing and I went to Clodsire and I remembered, if this guy's just going to be using standard RBY teams, that means it's probably just going to be big three, two psychics. Oh, I can paralyze them and PP stall them with Clodsire, Amnesia? What's the worst that could happen? Um, the worst that could happen is that you go in the groove, everything's going fine, and suddenly Clodsire gets hit with a crit psychic and instantly dies. Which, in hindsight, is a very real chance that could have happened. Also, if Naganadel is using Hyper Beam, it can actually win the 1v1. So in practice, it's not as impressive as it looked, and only worked because Silver was pretty much just using standard team plus one new thing, and I had two tournaments, and I had an entire tournament of experimentation to use that advantage over. And even then, the strat only barely worked. It's basic. You know how people were trying to hype up Amoongus because Zach won versus Zaz? That's basic. Clodsire, to me, is what Amoongus is to Zach. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but it's funny that those two were actually used, and Toxapex is still the unused garbage that didn't even get niche.
It's also the
Because,
one that Groundback added because nobody cared.
Yeah, nobody cared.
yeah, what
And
no
what's
regenerator does
sad?
to a Muffer.
Toxapex got it pretty bad, but I'm pretty sure Volbeat in season 3 is going to get it worse. And I'm going to say worse because on paper it should have some things that objectively other Pokemon have, but it's going to see the exact same amount of usage once the tournament happens, and that's ghosting a lot
Mm,
more. Because at least with Toxapex, you can just say other Pokemon are doing what it does, but better. Volbeat's gonna have its own unique tools, and it's still gonna suck.
Exactly. Though it's gonna be probably okay against the newer guys, but again, eh. Like, why use Volbeat when you have Gastrodon,
Oko.
Palossand?
Actually, no, a Volbeat with like 3 nasty plots can probably 2-hit KO Tapu Koko with an. So we gotta respect that.
You want me to do the
What they're doing
calcs
in
for
the
that?
I'm scared
Because
if I
I'm
do the
pretty
calcs,
sure
it's not gonna be enough.
I'm pretty sure it's a Void KO.
With Max Special?
Yep, I'm gonna get you Volbeat at Max Special, and you're gonna see that your Ice Punch is doo-doo.
Okay, while you do that, I'm
Then
Uh,
gonna
let me
start
just
sharing my
complain about.
screen. Because I think it's probably time we can do minor updates to the viability.
yep.
So, what's the first thing you had on your mind?
Honestly, like, again, it's kind of hard to tell because, again, not a lot of things are, like, very innovative. But I think there are some things we, like, maybe say for. Or, like, I guess we gotta ask. Actually, no, there is one thing about the second tournament that I did notice. Not just from Silver Nugget, but from everyone. Alakazam did not seem as omnipresent as it was in the first tournament.
That's true. Alakazam was way less mandatory because we went back to regular ABY, which means Tammy's gets better as soon as we get closer to regular ABY metagames.
So, how do you guys feel about the existence of a big two? Do you think we need to have like another like S
Uh,
tier with like add some Pokemon Tauros and Strux up there?
Tauros is a big tree. Period. It should be up there.
The
Like,
first time around, if I'm being honest.
it should have always been there. And yeah,
And
that was a mistake.
what about Snorlax? Because I think it was Zashua that said like there's an argument that like the big three is still the big three.
There
My
is, and I
problem.
think Snorlax is proving itself to be more and more mandatory, but it does. I have a few times where I felt like it could have been replaced because
Another
you
thing is
started. The
with
thing is,
Snorlax, like Sotina mentioned, it's there's a few times where you could replace it, so it's definitely not mandatory. That alone is already hurting it a little bit. And on top of that, all three of these dudes in Big Three, they're massive cooking. Chansey is Chansey. Alakazam is the best psychic in the format, even in spite of the Starmie resurgence in part two. And Tauros is Tauros. Okay, it's basically slightly worse than Naganadel, but less risky. So what is Snorlax doing? Again, counters nothing, checks everything. That's great to have, except it's actually not checking everything because Iron Hands and Annihilate are genuinely so good that I think that alone is not making Snorlax Big 3 material.
yeah, and another app is used to counter Tauros, and it can crack most Snorlax set, and low kick is just and you can use low kick or something, and like another app has big longevity, as it has been shown in the tournament time and time again.
Also, Cloyster is also better, so that sucks for Snorlax. Because Cloyster can just clamp, switch into something that better checks Snorlax, like Ape. Oh, yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think you guys convinced Max big three. But I
Put it
do
over
think it
James.
should be the
I will
top
say,
of
I
S
will put it
tier.
over James.
I think
Yes,
it's
that I
yeah,
agree
I
with.
think it's. I agree with the fact that it's the fourth best guy in the format. The only thing that holds it back somehow is the fact that it makes you stack up on normal type, which isn't that good. Like,
I
yeah,
I also think I think it's pretty safe to say this that we can also probably like bump Starmie up as well.
yeah, Stammy Fifth is like good. Uh,
Like actually, let's
okay.
take a moment to look at the tier list Because any of the other things are going to change. It's just going to be the new Pokemon. And so let's just look at the top Pokemon right now. Alakazam,
Mm,
Chansey, Tauros, Snorlax, Starmie. I said before that my main goal was to have a more like innovative format, like to buff the weakest types, and I don't know if I succeeded. We got some
I
things A
mean,
tier and like one in S tier, but the top 5 are definitively just the standard RBY Pokemon.
exactly. And you know what? There is an argument to bump Executor up a tier. And same with Annihilate.
Yes, I am so glad someone actually agreed with that. Because
Yeah.
if you're in the server, you know I posted my tier list, my updated season 2 VR, my personal one, and I put Annihilate at the bottom of S tier, and I stand by that. I genuinely think Annihilate is so good at beating Tauros and Snorlax, and to a lesser extent, Paralyzed Chansey, that you can make an actually solid argument that it's bottom of S tier just on sheer consistency.
You
Because
know
Uh,
it's
what?
not trying to counter the psychic types. It doesn't need to. That's what you use other Pokemon, Chansey, for. That's what you use Annihilate for. Fighting types were designed to counter normal types, and you have a thing that counters normal types this well.
You know what? I'm gonna
yeah,
go further.
it's basically a triangle.
I'm gonna go further with that. Like, what do you think was used more between the Gonado and Annihilate? I honestly think
Annihilate.
Annihilate was probably used more.
I
I
think
pretty much
Annihilate is
no.
better defensively. Nagadadel is just an offensive monster, but it's hard to set up quite right.
Like, now here's the thing with
No
Annihilate.
longevity as well.
I think by sheer usage alone, Annihilate needs to be put to S tier, and I can honestly see it being put above Naganado and Slowbro.
I think this is about right. Again, I think Strobro is good, but it might drop off of ST now. I don't know.
Is that the thing is it technically beats Naganadel. But the problem is that technically is ignoring a 1 in 4 chance to invalidate all your setup turns, which is incredibly annoying. And that's the problem with Naganadel. It's sometimes just a game of chicken, where it's like, okay, you probably beat this matchup, but do you want to risk it? And that's the question. It's kind of like fighting a Scarfer in Gen 1. It's so ridiculous sometimes because there are legit cases where Naganadel just runs through games with crits a la Tauros, but even the things that can check it can just fumble. Again, just like Tauros. But
Mm-hmm.
it is completely relegated to the late game because it has no longevity. The most surprising thing about this is that it can barely tank a ride on Earthquake at full. And I do mean barely because it survives on like 2%.
So
Yeah,
I think are we good with this? Like overall, like Tauros and Annihilate rising, a Slowbro like flying a little bit.
yeah.
I would I
Also,
would put Rhydon below both of them, strictly just because Rhydon isn't as clear as Gengar and Slowbro. It's amazing, they're very close, and you could interchange it however you want. Personally, like they're all basically the same in the tier, except Exeggutor. He should be the top of A. It should be the top of A plus, and the other three just kind of depend on which one you prefer better.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
like all of them
It's
are. Yeah, they
all
kind of
about.
same thing basically. With each one of them. Each one of them is very good at countering one thing.
I mean,
Gengar,
most at one thing specifically, because it's otherwise it would be city.
yeah,
But no, they're good Pokemon
yeah,
all around. But
Slowbro,
like Slowbro could just completely invalidate like Alakazam. Rhydon does it for Zapdos. Gengar isn't really the same as those two, but against some Pokemon like let's say Minshao or like Zamazenta, it can just exist and do whatever the heck it wants.
oh,
Yeah,
that's another thing. both Annihilate and Gengar kind of just blanket check a lot of things strictly by existing. Like, you can't click Explosion as freely because they have a Ghost type. Something like Zamazenta. In fact, that's a big reason why I think Menshao was slept on for a majority of the tournament. Annihilate was used so much and was so respected that you pretty much could not get away with, what's the thing? You couldn't get away with running Menshao. And that's another reason why Vespiquen didn't end up being as good in practice. Again, 8 quad resists it, and even super effective, well, even a crit attack order is doing almost pennies of damage to Annihilate.
Yeah,
It's
and the
just
episode
so many
forced
things
Run
at
Rock
once.
Slide to
Uh,
deal with you.
Speaking of Vespiquen, I guess we should bring her up. She wasn't used in the second tournament at all. However, I do think that Satina did convince me it needs to be dropped down a tier. Like, we were originally thinking C plus tier last night when we talked about it. But now that I'm looking that with Pokemon like, Minshao, Crobat, and Tentacle there, that seems a little bit too harsh. I think probably either B or B minus is probably more. I'm probably leaning towards B
But it
minus.
feels like it fits in there, right? It feels like it's just at home with boosts, with things that are barely not good enough and just slightly too much checked by other stuff.
I wouldn't say that because even though like Vespiquen is horrible defensively, it is definitely a lot better than like Crobat or Tentacruel and Shao. I think B minus. I think is probably better for Vespiquen because like
Mm,
I feel like even though there's a lot of things that can counter it, you can also do the same thing for Zamazenta. And the fact that like depending on like the board state, it does do like an absolutely absurd amount of damage. It's just like even with its bad typing, I'd still say
yeah,
it's more consistent than Minshao or Crobat.
but I think the issue is you have to build a hard team around it to take care of its check because it needs specific support that other BTM don't need.
I mean,
Because you can just slap them on a team more easily.
can't really slap like Jolteon on a Gudron. You especially can't slap Zamazenta and Golem on. Or no, even Sneasler. No, like nothing can B tier. Like really can be slapped on easily. I'd argue Vespiquen's the one that good out of maybe not like Jolteon, but like the fact that like this is a very psychic oriented meta, like that alone means that Vespiquen, even though there's a lot of things that can very much hurt it, will always have something it'd be very good against. I can't say the same for Gudra, who can just fumble against any psychic use, or Sneasler, who just fears a single psychic move. Like, I don't think it's better than
Yeah, but
Jolteon, but I
you
honestly would
still
rather use
feel
Vespiquen in
psychic.
like more games than Sneasler or Gudra.
Overall, Vespiquen has a practicality problem. It still gets two tapped by just psychic as a move from all the psychic users that are in ST.
But
All of them, you
why does
cannot switch.
that matter? Like, what's using Psychic on? Because you're always clicking attack order.
Okay, the thing is, you cannot switch in. Switching in is the important part. If you can switch in and threaten, so you need to switch in on the paralyzed thing, and then it switches out to the check,
I don't even think it
and then
needs
you're forced
switch
to go
out.
out.
Like, it's slow, but like, it's a good like you can just have it like almost make a revenge code. It's at least tanky enough to where it can survive one hit or some rock move. So like just winning a second type kill whatever you have out and then sending out like Vespiquen. Like that's the way you probably should be using it. But I think we should have Cyber
Yeah, I don't
DJ
know.
like break this tie. Cyber DJ, what are your thoughts on Vespiquen and what tier should it be in?
Gonna be honest, you both make really good points, and I feel personally conflicted. But here's my thing with Vespiquen. Here's the thing with Vespiquen, is that it's kind of like it's got the Annihilate thing, where it's really good at checking one specific type, in this case, the Psychic type. But unlike Annihilate, you're kind of dog offensively yes, you can heal up, and yes, you can boost your defense, but when you got a quadruple weakness to rock, and Rhydon is as good as it is, and then you got weaknesses to electric, Zapdos exist.
Blizzard
Ice,
weakness.
Blizzard exists, that's right. You're not that frail, but you're also not that bulky either. So, yes, you can heal up, but if you're healing up almost as much damage as you're taking, what's the point? So, in practice, and this is a weird example, I think that's the problem with that. Those are the main problems. But if you build around it, it is actually good. So if you asked me, I would put it below Armaldo just barely. Because the thing with Armaldo is that it is so bulky enough to where you can feasibly put it on a team, not necessarily slap it on every team, but it is at least more consistent than Vespiquen. They are objectively the two best bug types, and they both similar in power
Mm,
level, despite not necessarily being comparable that much.
I would argue that some other bug is better than Vespiquen. We can come back to it later.
Yeah, there's definitely
But
Later
yeah,
bugs
because
that will be
now
I'm
rising the
still
rank.
fine. Yeah, I'm still fine with Vespiquen going to B minus. It's just that I have to present all the we have to say all the arguments. That way we can actually show. Even if we went in more detail on the original for what fucking thing we did.
I think B minus is
Uh,
probably good because seems like all three of us are have like disagree here. Because like I think it's probably B tier, Cyber thinks it's plus, Susina thinks C plus. So like B minus is probably a nice uh like place where like a nice compromise, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
B
Because
minus.
yeah, it fits in B minus because all the guys in B minus all have very clear counterplay, and
Yeah.
I think that is what is probably making it fit with all the guys here.
Yeah, I would agree.
Speaking of
I
clear
will say though,
counterplay,
Vespiquen probably
speaking of
would be like kinda killer in like Generation Jumble underuse.
oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I
definitely.
think by usage it would go to Yu. Not gonna lie, I think it should go to Yu by usage. And that's why it would be fun because like Tentacruel is the best guy around, and I think you have a better chance against Tentacruel than you ever did against the psychic types.
Now, brought up earlier, one bug type did manage to like prove itself during the second tournament, and I do think Armaldo does legitimately have competition. So I guess I'll let Satina start first. Like, how do you feel about Glycopod?
Golisopod is uh it's good defensively, surprisingly so. Physical and special side, you have raw stats, kind of like a mini cloister in a way. You like some things that cluster have, but you have bug bites. That's the main thing. Your cloisters with bug bites is basically what I define it as. And you can 1v1 a lot. You can 1v1 the same things that Annihilate can, but you have also other few matchups that are different. You lose to Rhydon, for example, when an ape just dog on it. And Golisopod, uh, first of all, you can take Photoros Body Slam. I think it's a damage roll, so it can go up to 5. So that means you're free to rest on Tauros and stuff. You can just be defensive, switch in. It technically has Swords Dance, but Swords Dance is bad on it for the reason that it doesn't hit hard enough and it doesn't have the cleaning moves. Also, it has raw power already, so it doesn't need more power. It's one of those things. It's like I don't need to be more strong. I just need to uh, be on the field. And it has many opportunity to switch in. It's also one of the few bug types that actually only get 3 hit KO by Psychic, which is a major difference. All the other bug type get 2 tapped. And that's what makes them slightly awkward into Psychics. Golisopod can switch in. It also has a Blizzard resistance.
That's very
And the
relevant.
Blizzard resistance makes it able. Yeah, you can switch into Starmie now because of that. you have opportunities to switch in into a lot of other Blizzard users like Jinx, and you can genuinely threaten them to switch out. As I think the best set is Bug Bite Sub Rest. Sub can be used to scout. You don't care about paralysis. You can manage losing a few turns. You can manage your speed. Like, you're not fast. Your main advantage is being faster than Rhydon. But again, rest. You just have to sleep off those turns and then you're faster than Rhydon again.
And
So
also,
overall, you have a lot of
one thing I want to say
good
about, like,
matchups.
you're talking about Starmie. There's also one big benefit for Starmie, I guess, Grind Support for Season 2. Because of the Dragon types, like, not being the best, but, like, the Dragon types and Iron Hands being in the format, Thunderbolt on Starmie is nowhere near as common. Wizard and Psychic are almost exclusively the best moves for Starmie, and Starmie does not have coverage for water types. Grind Support does significantly better.
Yeah, exactly. So just how the format works. I think it's up into the B plus to A minus range. At first I thought it was in the A tier with Iron Hands, but reasonably it's actually just B plus. It's a very great defensive pivot that has a lot of utility. I mean, when you can just go cleanly into Tauros and soak up its heat and stuff, I think you're pretty good.
Okay, but I don't ask both of you this. Is it better or not better than Armada?
They have different roles. Amado is being offensive and it being defensive, so I don't know.
Seems like it's my job to get this time. Okay. The Lysa pod. I created only one team for my match versus Silver, and what a surprise, I used it as well. And I agree with basically everything she said, but I'm gonna have to relinquish and say it's slightly worse than Armaldo. But if you were to twist my arm, I would say they are both in a pretty much the exact same caliber of power. And one final tidbit that I would like to mention. There is actually an excuse for Glycopod to run Sword Stance because I run it. I ran it. That I got to use it in my match versus Silver is a different story, but you can. So, Substitute is nice for scouting. But if you switch it into a Paralyzed Psychic, which you could, guess what? You can use that as a setup opportunity because, again, you're decently bulky. So, Sword Stance stood Bug Bite. They don't want to be taking that, and suddenly you can also be Chansey as well. And, further note, you're a bug type Rhydon has to respect because you both speed tie each other, and you get two shot by Rock Slide, I hope. And Rhydon is just one shot by Surf. Rhydon can't afford to risk it if you're both at full, whereas Golisopod can.
I don't know about you guys, but personally, I kind of like the idea of Elysapod being above Armado. I
I
just like
do
that set off
too,
more.
but yeah, I think it's interesting as an update to the tier list.
And one big thing
But
I want to
they
Just
are
for the
say
in the
is,
luck.
same ballpark.
like, even though they both work very differently, it cannot be It cannot be overstated how Armaldo, even if it's like different, does have competition with Rhydon and to a lesser extent Golem. Meanwhile, there's not a single Pokemon that can do what Golisopod does. And I think that's a huge reason to argue it being the best Pokemon in B plus tier.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Speaking of B plus, so we moved Golisopod to B plus, but I don't know how you two feel, but I feel like Galvantula, there's an argument to be made that it's in the same tier as Jolteon because they're both kind of similar in power level, but they kind of have some trade-offs.
true.
Galvantula isn't as fast, but you have Bug Stab and Slash, while Jolteon has Crit Double Kick and is one of only two Pokemon to outspeed Naganadel, the other being the inconsistent Zamazenta. So I think You can make it either Jolteon as B plus or Galvantula as B, or it's just Rip B. Because they're
I'm
both basically the same in power level, if you ask me.
I'm for putting Galvantula down a tier.
Yeah, same here.
It's
It's like looking at like Galvantula compared to like the other two bug types who are significantly bulkier. Like those two can like stay in games much longer, and they're probably going to hit a lot
Galvantula
harder.
leads.
Yeah, Galvantula is a
Yeah.
suicide weed, and calling a suicide weed in Gen 1 B plus sounds very weird.
Yeah, it is. It's when you basically have to kill yourself because you literally don't have another opportunity to switch in the game. That's your issue. Your switch-ins are super limited. And I think that's the issue of all stuff in regular B, actually. Switching is limited,
Yeah, you're right.
funnily
Actually,
enough.
I'm gonna. I actually think I probably rather put Jolteon above Galvantula on, honestly, because like Jolteon can also be used as a lead, but like it's weird. Even though Critical Bug Bite's pretty good, I honestly feel like I would rather have Critical Double Kick. But I think a big part of that is because the big three have, like restated their dominance over the tier. And because of that, I think there's now an argument that normal is once again better than psychic. And if that's the case, double kick is just better.
Also, something else I might have had,
Jolteon.
you critical hit bug bite is cool, but critical hit psychic is not something you want to see ever.
Yeah, like it's funny because sometimes a critical psychic from Starmie or Zam just deletes you. You don't even do your role as
Yeah,
a
it's
suicide lead.
yeah, you did your role as a suicide lead. You got awkward by something, and now you play a 5v6. So it's definitely worse than Jolteon because Jolteon will act first and is likely like just treat KOs, which is not good. But at least it's better than Galvantula because it gets to act first.
Yeah, exactly.
On top of that, it anti-leads Starmie, and again, it paralyzes Naganadel. That might not sound like a big deal, but that
It's a huge
genuinely
deal.
means. But it might not sound immediately because you're like, well, when am I going to switch this in? That's the thing. Just having an unparalyzed Jolteon on your team is hell. Because even if you Thunder Wave, they crit Hyper Beam, one shot your Galvantula. That thing is death fodder now. That thing is death fodder now. Jolteon doesn't do anything. It literally just switches in, paralyzes it on a good day, does maybe 23% with Thunderbolt, and it did its job. It neutralized the threat.
Yeah,
It's
because
a
Also,
salute
faster
there.
than
Paralyzed
Salute
Zam.
Jolteon.
Faster than Alakazam is also really good. Especially since some people love to use
Exactly.
Weed Alakazam.
mm-hmm.
I can see a case for it. Like, it just depends on
There's
the team.
there's a case for it and it's team dependent, I think. That's the thing. But yeah, that's overall what I think for Jolteon is probably pretty good. What else
I
is
think
need to
there's
be
only
moved?
one more. Someone here we very foolishly put in not viable. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So,
Cyber, you
yeah, so
time to take the
anyways,
hat.
yeah, so here's the reasons why Yanmega is actually a big 4 Pokemon. You see, if Yanmega, assuming there's no Sweep Clause, and Yanmega has no guard and speed boost, it can put literally everything to sweep in the game, which is actually pretty good.
Damn, Cyber is not taking his hat.
But like, Yanmega is a bug type. What, you're gonna tell me that there's a poison type that can hit it with a super effective poison jab?
What? That would never happen.
Exactly. You know what? I just realized you can't have no guard and uh god speed boost at the same time.
Speed boost.
Yes, you know what? I don't think it's anywhere near as good as I thought. Sorry. Let's talk about Quad Sire instead.
Yeah. So, since I'm basically the only reason Clodsire exists now, Um, this might sound contentious. It's either basically the top of D tier or C minus, and I feel bad for putting it C minus because I genuinely think Articuno doesn't deserve to be slandered like this.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, soft checking the psychics and actually having a fighting chance versus Naganadel is definitely something you have to respect. And if Chansey is running Seismic Toss and only Seismic Toss, which in this format definitely happens, you can PP stall Chansey with Earthquake and Poison Jab. So, bottom of C minus.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it's a good enough take. It feels, funnily enough, after what it feels overpowered compared to everything it did here.
Yeah, I think it being the best Pokemon here is really funny. But even though it doesn't seem that good, going from not viable to C minus, that is debatably the biggest jump out of anything here.
Yeah, it is. It's a big end jump either up or down because not viable is a hellscape for meaning you failed. And Among Us got one play, meaning it could have been DT, but nah.
Yeah, not really. And honestly,
Mm,
now
yeah,
that we no longer have to worry about any more people playing in season 2, I think we can just put Toxapex at the bottom of don't use this. And Kangaskhan
yeah.
can probably be moved to not
Please.
viable. Why did we put Kangaskhan in not viable? It's
Uh,
a worse Snorlax, but
okay. Okay.
Or
What about
Snorlax is
Victory
better
Bell?
than
Because it
Earthquake.
runs back to you to OU. So what about Victory Bell?
Not viable. Below Kangaskhan.
yeah. Honestly,
Yeah.
or okay, it's actually pretty funny, but I'm pretty sure Kangaskhan should actually be the top of not viable.
No, that should be
Mm,
Cypher.
Uh, uh,
no, Cypher is just was Pincer. So why? I
uh,
don't think something that
yeah, let's keep
I don't
let's
know.
keep it
Pincer
like
is
this.
better.
Like these ones here are the
Yeah.
only ones that you might actually play, or maybe these 4 users. But yeah, that's pretty much the updated viability ranking. The Tauros moved up, Snorlax and
Yeah.
Starmie moved up, Slowbro went down, Goisopod went up,
Yeah, like, up.
Galvantula and Vespiquen went down, and Quadsire moved up, and everything below here does not really count. So I think that's everything we have to say about season.
Yep, that sounds about good for like season 2 by itself. Now we can talk about the transition to season 3.
Yeah, we'll make it pretty quick because, as usual for all of the season, I always make a viability prediction. And now that there's just more council members, I can just do that with you guys, which will probably make just a better video overall. So let's just quickly go over the Pokemon
Mm-hmm.
that are going to be added, what our initial thoughts are going to be. So,
Okay, what do
what's
we
being
want
added
to
again?
start with first?
There's a decent. Oh wait, I'll say this really quick.
There is.
One thing I will say real quickly, Meganium will actually not be in season.
Oh yeah, true. Megan is cut.
Yeah, Meganium's cut. But do not worry if you're a fan of physical grass types. There is a lot, and I mean a lot.
Salzburg Executor and Tapu Bulu are right there for you to use.
And
Please
Ludicolo
take
also has
them.
Sword Stand.
Yeah, it does, but Ludicolo is can do literally everything it wants,
Yeah, it
so
can.
it counts as whatever role it wants to be.
But that's already 4 right there. Those are the 4 grass types. We have the other 3 Tapu. We have Solrock, Lunatone. We have Volbeat. We have Camerupt, Palisand, Gastrodon. I'm missing anyone, or is that it?
Ice cream cone
Oh yeah, Vanillux. Vanillux. And
Like Venusaur, but
and
we already mentioned that.
I think that's a Raichu.
oh yeah, and Alolan Raichu.
One right here.
Yeah, and that sounds
Boy.
like we got all the boys. around.
So I'll just go over my thoughts first because it'll be pretty quick. I added a few electric types, ground types, water types, and grass types. That wasn't intentional to add that many. I'm kind of worried because like you guys can talk about the electric types, but I'm worried about the grass type because I think having a whole bunch of good grass types and electric types is really like it could be really scary really quickly. Because electric is one of the best types in regular RBY, but it's balanced by the fact that it has no coverage, and the ground types just hard counter it really badly. By
Mm-hmm.
far, the best electric types we're gonna have. We're gonna have Tapu Koko, Animal, and Raichu. Tapu Koko technically can't really fight against ground types, but Nature's Madness is just a good move to use against them. And then Raichu's gonna have a really
Uh,
powerful Psychic with Tauros' speed stat. So that alone is already gonna make the ground types like not gonna make it as free as it usually is. But with how good some of these other grass types are gonna be, such as like most likely Ludicolo and Sawsbuck, I'm worried it can get out of hand really quickly. But that's just like my 2 cents. I
um,
predict.
yeah, my 2 cents is simple. After two Nature's Madness, Rhydon forced to a simple Hyper Beam from Tapu Koko. So it's already unviable, and you have to run Rest Rhydon, and Rest Rhydon sucks. If you see the you already are you already so if you already see the picture, by sheer power, it can just wall tap. It just get destroyed by Tapu Koko over time. So no,
Oh,
Rhydon doesn't do anything to Tapu Koko.
oh, and here's another thing. Nature's Madness into Hyper Beam kills Chansey. So Chansey's not switching in. Um, Pretty sure Gastrodon is a damage roll. Um, Palo Sand is pretty much the only thing. Oh, that reminds me. Either yesterday we were just playing some matches for fun, just trying out the Gen 3 meta or the Season 3 meta. And when I played with Sotina, every single match went the exact same way. You play normally. Tapu Koko switches in. You switch in Palo Sand, or any Tapu Koko check you might have. They eat a Nature's Madness. They click the recovery move while Tapu Koko switches out. The counter gets forced out. The game plays like normal. Repeat cycle. It was boring. And it's Halosan, who is otherwise just a decent Pokemon. It couldn't. It's B minus at the lowest, leaning towards B or high B plus. But the fact that you need it because it's the one thing that Tapu Koko genuinely fears pretty much means it's an S tier Pokemon if Tapu Koko stays in the format. It is genuinely that annoying to deal with. It
Uh,
is it pretty much checks everything just with Nature's Madness. It doesn't have to break the team, but just the fact that its presence alone is forcing specific counterplay that is very easy to capitalize on, might I add, is already bad. Because let's talk about those. Palosand, Agilirap Dragonite, Chansey, and Camerupt, and Alolan Exeggutor, and Gastrodon. Oh, what's that? Ludicolo beats all of them except Chansey? Well, shit, let's just use Ludicolo often. So now teams are essentially just boiling down to Palo San, Tapu Koko, Ludicolo, Chansey cores, and the last two is essentially just whatever you want. It's so boring and so uninteresting. Every team feels the same. The only reason to not use Tapu, well, there's a good argument to run two electrics or two Tapus, for example. Yeah, that's another thing. Two Tapus can pair well with you. You can run Tapu Fini to have a psychic type, or Tapu Lele as a water type. And you have two Nature's Madness users. So I'm asking, is this fun for the meta? Is this what we want? Because I know a big complaint of season 2 was that the meta was samey and had nothing and was just regular RBY with a couple of top tiers. Well, we did get a new meta, which is even worse than season 2.
No, he got the typos right. Lele is a water. No, Finny is a water. Lele is psychic. That's what he
No,
said,
no,
right?
he said
No.
Feeny was the psychic and Lele was the water.
Damn. That. No, but Finny is a water and Lele is a psychic.
Yeah, Lele is the psychic, Feeny is the water.
Yeah. Damn, that's a thing. That's a thing we're gonna. Argument is invalid. Spelling
Yeah,
mistakes.
exactly. Cyber got
The
the
one with
two
the
mixed up,
crown.
which means that his argument is invalid. Gastrodon is really going to solo the entire tier, and you know what? Screw it. Maybe Rhydon might join him. Never know.
Yeah.
Or maybe Volbeat.
Also.
Maybe Volbeat will
Oh
maybe
yeah,
his tail
Volbeat.
will glow so bright that Tapu Koko gets blinded and accidentally falls in a meat grinder.
Would be
The meta's
fun.
better for it.
Yeah, the beta
Okay.
is better if it does. Also, wanna talk about your experience when you didn't use Palosand?
Lost. Okay. When we played with those teams that I described, our matches were like 70 turns at the minimum. I couldn't even crack 50 turns when I used the team that didn't have Palosand. And I tried to experiment and I genuinely think if you don't run Palosand, your team is unviable just because of Tapu Koko. It's actually hard counters you that much. You need Palosand to not instantly lose to Tapu Koko because if it switches in even one time, you automatically have to respect it. And you can't just paralyze it with Thunder Wave. It can just run agility. That's another thing. It doesn't have to run Thunder Wave. You can genuinely just run agility over that, and it works just fine.
Yeah, because guess what? You have a mon on your team for paralysis support anyway. Why not just use them?
Yeah, so unlike a Sneasler, seems like Tapu Koko really might need to have a real suspect test around it. So if you join a Discord server, definitely play some games. Play some games with Tapu Koko, play some games without it and Palisand. And I just let us know what you, because if a lot of people keep telling us oh yeah, Tapu Koko might need to go, obviously we'll do that. I don't know if we need to do a suspect test immediately.
We
At
need
the
to
very
put the
least, we
first
will
suspect
have this
test on
figured out before the
immediately.
tournament starts.
Yeah.
But I think
But
that's
yeah, it
everything
needs to
now.
be.
I think we need we'll go over our thoughts on the full meta. Or actually, no, I know how we're going to do this. First, we're going to decide if there needs to be a suspect test for Tapu Koko. If there is, we'll figure that out first. Only then I'll do a video going over viability prediction. Because Tapu Koko
Yeah.
is that is a huge contender on how the meta will form, and we need to figure that out before anything else.
Huge
Ye-
contender. Tapu Koko is the meta. And the only things that are going to be genuinely amazing are either Tapu Koko's counters, and what counters the counters. Rhydon would be completely unviable if it wasn't for Tapu Koko, because there is zero excuse to use it over Golem, Gastrodon, or Camera.
Oh,
And
Palosand.
Gastrodon looks a little, or Palosand, especially Palosand. Oh my god, dude, Palosand completely makes Rhydon irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of things. It's kind of weird, but I feel like Tapu Koko is actually gonna make the meta more interesting in the sense that it's definitely gonna make people passionate. I think I'll say, and I'm kind of rooting
I mean,
towards Tapu Koko being banned because I feel like that can actually get a discussion going, and thus season 3 actually might have be better than season 1 and 2. My goal is just to make it better than season 1. I think anything could be better than season 2 at this point. But
yeah, anything is
yeah,
better than season 2.
so
The thing is, Tapu Koko is one-dimensional. That's its issue.
one more thing. I forgot about this earlier. When it comes to council members, I am currently unsure about what to do. That's technically an odd number is most likely optimal, but I'll have to talk about it with the others. because we were gonna have another council member after the second tournament, but when we stopped caring about it as much and I didn't make videos, I figured it would not be a good time to actually do. So there might be a new one like mid-season, season 3, or at the end. Who knows? Just be on the lookout because I'll probably make an announcement once season 3 starts, asking who's actually interested in potentially having a council position. I just know if you do want to be a council member, you're probably going to do a bit more work than what these guys have done in the past. Like we talked about near the beginning of the video, you guys are probably going to have to. I'm probably going to trust you guys to be the ones to really help me when it comes to managing tournaments and keep up to date and on track with their matches. Just remember that if you actually want to be a council member. But that's
Of
about
course.
it. Do you guys have any closing thoughts on season 2?
Closing thoughts on season 2. It was fun, but yeah, it had so many issues, and I think it kind of ruined what the season ought to be. Unfortunately, and I think we're gonna just have to do better in the future. And I think season 3 is shaping to be way better already with the suspect of Tapu Koko on the line and stuff like that.
You, Cyber?
Actually don't think as harshly as season 2 as much as Sotina did. I think the biggest issue with season 2 is that it couldn't go the fullest extent because there were joke picks. I know Annihilate was a joke pick for the fighting type, but at least we saw what it did, but
Mm-hmm.
it actually was just a joke pick. So the best contender for the fighting type wasn't even technically supposed to be on the list. The dragon types were fine. None of them were particularly amazing, aside from Naganadel, but at least we could all agree that none of them were a wasted slot. Meanwhile, the bug types were relegated to having a bench warmer in Yanmega, and the poison types had one that was helping them, which was Sneasler, a poison adjacent in Naganadel, and everyone else was just kind of dog. Glotsire and Namundus did one thing, and Toxapex was so worthless that it couldn't do anything, even in joke matches. And I am so glad that you were starting to lighten up on the whole, it has to be one type more than the other kind of rule. You're lightening up on that because I genuinely think this kind of format is going to get inherently limited if we keep committing to this idea too much. That
Yeah.
needs to go.
Yeah, one day we will revisit this concept of just buffing the weaker types. But next time it happens, I'm not gonna hold any punches. We're gonna actually do everything we can to make these guys actually really good for the format. I'm talking things like
Oh,
Drapion being a poison and dark, like Lucario's a fighting steel. Things that are not just decent, but the normal psychic types can still fight. No, next time we do this, it's gonna be brutal. I'm not sure about full on X
oh,
Scissor and close combat, but something like Brick
Close
Break,
combat is too much.
yeah, that might be too much, but when we eventually revisit this, the Pokemon are gonna be way more dangerous. That's gonna make it way more entertaining.
okay.
And also, Volbeat is probably gonna be the last case we're ever gonna have a joke pick. Because definitely with Toxapex here, it really is making you realize, wow, this is actually just. It's not even a funny joke. The fact that Toxapex didn't
The
get
thing
used
is,
once, we really do just need Pokemon that we actually are gonna use. Just
okay,
that it was wasted.
technically it was used. I used it in the practice matches. Hey, that's something, right? It
Okay,
counts.
okay, here's how we're gonna end the video.
Go
We're
to
gonna end the
disaster mode.
video by giving Sotina a medal. We're gonna give a medal
No,
that
no, no,
Exactly, I deserve it.
yeah.
no. Wait.
Congratulations,
There's
Sotina.
something else
You're
I need to
getting the
mention.
technically has 1% usage medal.
Hold, hold on. There's one thing I want to mention about. You said that the next time you were going to buff the mid types, which was going to be like fire, flying, and grass. The mid types, basically. So, if you do that, It's essentially just going to be a variation of season 2 in a different way. And I want to talk about that now in advance, just so you can kind of get a mental image. Because we got this season 3, we're working on it. We do Hoenn Takeover. And then when we do season 5, we can just kind of jump in, do one thing, resolve it almost instantly. And I
Actually,
We
think
have
in that case,
Halloween.
I'm kind of changing my mind on
huh?
that. Like, I still want to make that a season at some point, but now I'm thinking more so because I'm looking at season 2 and look at the amount of Pokemon that just weren't used. The next one's still gonna be Hoenn Takeover, but I'm honestly thinking instead of that for the next season, I think season 5 should be adding Dark type, Fairy type, and Steel type.
I don't hate that
Mm,
idea. In fact, I
I
agree
don't
with
hate
it.
that idea too. We just have to manage it properly so that it doesn't line up too well with Halloween, because you have the Halloween Jumble special
Oh yeah.
that we have to
You
remember.
know what?
Because
After the Halloween Jumble special, we just need to pick the right things. And another thing, we actually need to have these limited. At least the way I'm thinking of it, it should be one strong Pokemon and two medium Pokemon per category. Let's say there's three steel types, three dark types, three fairy types. There's one really stronger than average one, and then there's two just really good ones. If you want to go four per type, so you can cap it out at 12, then okay, there's two strong ones and two just really good ones. Maybe some structure like that. We can discuss it more in the future, but I just want to have the idea planted so it doesn't totally come out of thin air.
Okay. Yeah, like I'll keep that in mind. Definitely something to discuss in the future. But I think that is it. Don't forget to say in the comments that Zach and Theus is a dirty slacker because he didn't show up at all.
yeah, exactly. Wow.
You hate to see it. But I think that's
Yeah.
everything. This is by far our most organized meeting so far. Like, not once did we really track off and talk about, like, beans on toes or racism or anything like that.
We talked about Yu-Gi-Oh! Your argument is invalid. We did drift
Oh,
off. Yeah.
well, Yu-Gi-Oh! That's different because we're talking about, like, your character and which is relevant for a council meeting.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay, but never mind.
Bam! Saved it. But yeah, that's everything. Thank y'all for being there. Or being there. Thank y'all for listening. This is Groundback. Season 3 is starting, I guess, tomorrow? Later today? What do you guys think? Or wait, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. That makes more
Finalize the
sense.
loss. Okay,
Tomorrow.
no. Not official. Well, officially, yeah, it starts, but the tournament itself, that's for future.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But as for like the actual season and like practice matches, I guess technically you can start playing them like right now, really. Just like find someone on the
Yeah, I
server,
mean,
ping them, and
we
go to
already
town.
are doing that.
Yeah, but like that's
Technically,
yeah. Season 3 is gonna be fun. You guys are like, I hope you're gonna be there with us as all the chaos unfolds. But until then, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.